Welcome back guys to a new video. How are y'all doing? Today I'll be diving into the nightmare that I can call the first trimester. It feels wrong calling it a nightmare because it's also a miracle at the same time, but I guess a lot of women that have gone through pregnancy and the first trimester with bad and horrible symptoms will relate. Before I even start, if you have been pregnant and have like interesting pregnancy stories or your first trimester stories, leave them in the comments. I'd love to read them. I'm also making this video because when I even wasn't pregnant and also when I got pregnant, I watched these types of videos so much that I don't think there was a video left on YouTube, because I loved seeing if I can relate, especially when I got pregnant, of course. I love seeing if I can relate to those situations, if my symptoms are the same as other women's or are they completely different. So it was very interesting for me, and so maybe some can also find this video, I don't know, useful? Yeah. I do have notes. I started writing this. It was sort of going to be my pregnancy diary, which I did start to write, but then my mom got me this baby journal. She got me it from Berlin, I think. She's told me she just saw it and had to buy it for me. And it's wonderful because you can document not only your pregnancy but also your delivery and like the first 2 years of the baby's life. So I thought this was really cute, and I'm like putting pictures in it and stuff. So I'll be going back and forth between these and seeing if I haven't missed anything out. So let me get into it. I found out I was pregnant on the 20th of November on a Sunday. So me and my husband, we were trying to get pregnant, and so I was very aware of that whole situation. So it wasn't, let's say, a surprise. And so my period was supposed to come the next day. And I thought that I'm gonna just wait for my period to come and not jump the gun. Actually, funny enough, this time around, when I did get a positive test, I didn't expect it to be positive because I didn't feel pregnant, because the last times when it was just PMS, I was telling myself those are pregnancy symptoms when they weren't. I was still pretty shocked because I've never seen a positive pregnancy test in my life. Not that I have, like, for me, I haven't seen one for me, you know what I mean? And those emotions just like absolutely flushed through me. So you saw my reaction in the announcement video. It's absolutely raw because I always wanted to catch my real raw emotions when I found out. And every time I watch that video, I start crying because it just, I am so vulnerable there. It's weird. I've never put anything like that out on the internet of me just like crying and being emotional, but that's completely normal. But you know, it's weird for me to put it out there. Funnily enough, my husband was home at the time when I took the test. So my idea was that, hey, I'm gonna take the test, brush my teeth. And yeah, and then I saw that the test was positive and I immediately ran over to him. I honestly don't know what I would have done if he was at work. I could not keep that secret to myself the entire day. I was so happy it was a Sunday and he was at home and not at work. We were both extremely excited and happy, and it was just exhilarating. Like, the amount of emotions I felt, it was wild. I've never felt so many intense emotions at the same time in my life. That was a roller coaster, but in sort of the best way possible. So yeah, when I found out, it turns out that I was sort of 4 weeks and I think 2 days pregnant when I found out. That's what the app said. So I have an app where I was tracking my period, my ovulation, and then now also my pregnancy, the Flow app, if you are maybe familiar with it. And at that time, I didn't really have any symptoms yet. Like, my boobs were sore, but they're sort of sore always around my period, so I didn't take that as anything serious. And they were sore for a while. They weren't like extremely sore, it was just like, it's uncomfortable. They do feel heavier than usual, but that was about it. But then week 5 rolled around, so it was just basically a week later. I started to feel nauseous, but the way the nausea sort of announced itself to me was, at first, the day before I first threw up, was I couldn't wrap my head around the idea of food. So all food was just disgusting to me. I didn't feel nauseous yet, but just the thought of food felt weird. It just feels bizarre because I've never felt like that about food, or like even my favorite food. And the next day I actually started feeling nauseous, and I was like, okay, well, pregnancy symptoms. I was sort of ready for that because everybody always talks about being nauseous, and I was sort of mentally preparing myself for that. Boy, did I not know what was going to hit me. So at first I was just, oh, this is cute. I'm a little bit nauseous. So it was like day one, and the next day rolled around. I woke up, I felt really sick, and right off the bat I already heard that everyone was telling me to, hey, like, if you feel nauseous in the morning, immediately eat something when you wake up and you'll be fine. That did not work whatsoever. So I tried like crisp rolls and stuff that was like bland or a little bit salty. I tried saltines, I tried those little rice crackers. None of it worked. And that's like fast forward to already like a few days in of me being nauseous. But the problem was that I wasn't just nauseous in the morning, I was nauseous the entire day. And so the first 2 days, when the nausea kicked in, yeah, I was really nauseous. So I think I threw up once on the first day of nausea announcing itself to me, and it progressively got worse. So like a week later, at week 6, I am throwing up 6 times a day, and then I think also sometimes at night. It wasn't every night, but like sometimes at night I did throw up. It was horrid. I could not stomach anything. Water was gross to me. It was horror. And I was like, no fucking way. This is what the cute pregnancy nausea is like and what everybody talks about. I sort of already felt that, hey, this is normal. And I got in touch with my doctor, not my OBG, because my OBG, the one that I usually go to, was away on vacation. I think that's what I assume. And so I just got in contact with my like normal doctor, and she was like, yeah, that's not good. You need fluids. So she put me on an IV drip. And at first she thought it was going to be enough if I'm just on an IV drip once, and then I can just like move on with my life. And so my doctor told me to get the IV drip on that day and the next day, so like 2 days in a row. And then she thought I was gonna be done with it. And then like I got the IV drip, and she was like, okay, well, let's see how you feel. And if it comes back, you're just gonna have to be coming in 2 or 3 times a week to get the IV drip. On that day, when I got the IV drip, I felt like a normal person. And at first, I was sort of jumping the gun because I was like, oh my god, my nausea is cured. So the IV drip stayed around for 24 hours after I got it, and then it was back to square one. So I ended up, yeah, going to my doctor 2 or 3 times a week to get the IV drip. It was pretty, I wouldn't say annoying, it's just, it was so hard to get myself outside of the house and not throw up on the way to my doctor, because my doctor isn't really that close. Let's say a 35-minute walk, which for some may not seem that far, but when you're nauseous and just feel absolutely freaking sick, you don't want to go anywhere. So I tried multiple ways of getting to my doctor. At first I thought, I'm just gonna take a taxi every time. Cannot sit in a taxi, cannot sit in a car. I get so sick in a moving vehicle. And I realized that was a no-go for me, so I just had to like walk back and forth to the doctors every time. But like, I would do that again if I had to, because the IV drip was the only thing saving my life, because for that day, I could feel like a normal person and get some things done. Other days where I didn't have the IV drip, I was still throwing up multiple times a day and just feeling absolutely horrible. Fast forward to 8 weeks. So at 8 weeks, I had my first scan. Up until that, it was a nightmare, and it still was. I started feeling normal only around, let's say, 14 weeks. I got my husband to come with me. Yeah, I didn't know if they were gonna let him in, even though I've heard like, yeah, they let people like your husband in for the scan. And so since my doctor, my OBG, was still away, there was someone else filling in for her. That was my first choice of doctor, because we didn't hit it off really. You know how it is when you want a doctor that you sort of connect with and they understand you. With this doctor, I wasn't connecting, and she didn't let my husband come in. She was like, yeah, if you want your husband to come in on the first scan, you're gonna have to go to a different clinic, and she was like very defensive about it. When I talked to my other pregnant friends, they're like, no, like they let my husband in on the first scan, so the difference between a regular scan and the first scan is because the first scan happens vaginally. So yeah, I get it, it's like an awkward position to be in, but yeah, so she didn't let him come in. But honestly, without him I wouldn't have be able to even go there because I was still very, very sick. Assume that until I tell you that I've stopped throwing up, I was throwing up this entire time, like up to 6 times a day. So it was a nightmare. It was a roller coaster. Yeah, but the scan went well. They told me that the baby's heart's beating, everything's great, it's in the right size, it should be. So it was a very quick scan because there's not much to look at. I was very happy and I got emotional at the scan. Yeah, it was just a real reality check because up until then I haven't seen if there's someone actually living inside of me. Even if the baby looked like a tiny weird blip, I was just still so happy about it. And I also talked to the doctor, and she also prescribed me medicine against nausea because up until then, like, I was just surviving on those IV fluids and I knew that wasn't really enough. And she's prescribed me medication which she told me I can't drink every day, but only on occasions that I really need to not be sick, for like work, or like if I'm going somewhere and I couldn't get the IV. So yeah, that really helped. That medicine helped. Fast forward to, let me check in my journal because I feel like I'm skipping areas. 9 weeks I'm writing, well, nausea is still here, and as far as I know, this is the peak. What I heard is that the peak for nausea because of the hormones is at like 9 or 10 weeks, and I was just like preparing for it to get even worse. Sort of didn't, it was just stayed sort of the same. I was just extremely sick the entire time. It didn't get better or worse really. So okay, 10 weeks rolled around and I got sick. What I thought was the flu at first because I was just having a cold, a little bit of a temperature, and I was coughing and my throat was sore. I did take a COVID test and yeah, it was negative, so I just caught a cold, but also everybody around me was kind of sick with the cold or the flu. I was really surprised, but still it hit me like a ton of bricks because then I realized how many medicine pregnant women can't use. So on a normal basis I would be up on my feet in no time, but when I realized that like half of the medicine, especially cough medicine, like you can't use as a pregnant women, especially in the first trimester. So yeah, everything just progressively got worse. So I was still throwing up and now I was sick as well, which just made things horrible and unbearable, really. I feel like I'm just not sugarcoating it, but I feel like I can't even explain how bad I felt. On my home research, realized I didn't have the flu, I had laryngitis. I also talked to my doctor and she was like, yep, that's what you've got. And I kept texting my doctor so many times a day because I was just desperate to feel better. I was having like a mild headache the entire time and I was still nauseous and just having an extremely sore throat. And when I had to throw up, it was the most painful thing I've experienced up until now. Okay, don't get me in the comments about, well, labor is more painful. I know, I'll get to that. I will see what that's like, but for me, this was extremely painful. And just doing everything naturally so I could get rid of the flu/laryngitis, which was just freaking horrible. My throat was extremely sore and I had the worst cough. And so this is where I learned my mantra, shit can always get worse, because at this point I was like, oh my God, what the hell is next? Because I'm throwing up, I'm sick. And then the next day I got a migraine. So I hadn't had a migraine ever since I got pregnant, which I was actually happy about because I do have migraines on a monthly basis, and everybody told me that when you get pregnant you're probably not gonna have them because of hormones. And up until then I was pretty hopeful because I haven't had it yet. A migraine rolled around and I haven't had a migraine that bad since I was a teenager. It was bad. So I was sick, I had a migraine, I was throwing up twice the amount because migraines make me nauseous. So I was double the nauseous. I had an extremely sore throat. I was coughing up everything I had. basically coughing up my soul. I was so desperate for help. I was even like calling some sort of random phone numbers I found on the internet of doctors that were available on a Sunday and just asking them what to do, because I was in so much pain, not only from being sick, but also the migraine was just making my head explode. I was literally crying of how much I was in pain. My husband was just, he was there supporting me, but he was so lost because he didn't know how to help me. There was nothing he would really do. And the worst thing is that my migraine medication that I used to use up until this point is something that I can't use during pregnancy. That has been a big challenge, because ever since that day, so I am 18 weeks now, I've had 6 migraine episodes up until now, which is a lot. They're bad. Like when I can't get my medication, they are really bad. I sleep basically for 24 hours in my bed in agonies. I haven't found anything that works. So paracetamol doesn't work, ibuprofen doesn't work, aspirin doesn't work, none of it works. And so I've tried all of these medications on the account of my doctor. So it's not that I tried them myself, because I know ibuprofen and aspirin aren't recommended in pregnancy, and don't take any of my advice. You know, like if you ever have a migraine during pregnancy, contact your doctor. So yeah, that has been rough. So I was sick from week 10 to week 11, and then I got a bit better around week 12, which is, I believe, the end of first trimester. I hear different thoughts of somebody saying that the first trimester ends at 13 weeks, some say at 12 weeks, so I don't know. But so at 12 weeks, I think I finally started feeling better, and also I had my second scan. Reaching 12 weeks is a big milestone, and I was very happy about it, because I was so concerned about everything, because I've been so sick the entire time. I thought like there's something definitely not okay with me, but yeah. We had the scan at 12 weeks and the baby was looking great and happy and everything was fine. So like that always soothes me, and I could see the baby move in there a bit, and it was amazing. Really, every time I see a scan, it's the best thing ever. I wrote at 13 weeks that I'm still nauseous, but it's getting a bit better, where I remember that, yeah, I was still sick, but I could start controlling my nausea better, because before it was very unpredictable. Like I knew I was gonna be sick in the morning and stuff like that, but like nothing really helped me. There were foods that I was eating repetitively until I got sick of them. For the first 3 weeks of my first trimester, I was just eating mashed potatoes with salt. That was the only thing I could approximately stomach. Like I still threw it up sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes. Yeah, that was the only thing. But then like it's like cut like this one day, and suddenly I can't stand potatoes. Suddenly I just can't stand them, and I couldn't look at them. I couldn't bear the smell of boiling them. I just cut out potatoes like that. And then I needed to find something else to replace the potatoes. So then I had buckwheat with salt. It did help a little bit, but throwing up buckwheat, you don't even want to know what it feels like to throw up buckwheat or anything that's porridge consistency. And then I found that a flavorless Greek vegan yogurt was working for me okay, and just cornflakes. So like my foods throughout the first trimester were extremely bland, not nutritious at all, but all the doctors that I talked to were like, that's fine, you're going through something, it's okay to lose a little bit of weight in the first trimester, just make sure you drink fluids. Like that was the only thing everybody was telling me, just drink fluids. I miraculously survived that first trimester, but honestly, yeah, I don't know. It was horrible. So yeah, like I said, now I'm 18 weeks and I still throw up every day, once a day in the morning. Sometimes maybe I don't throw up. There are like magical mornings once a week that I don't throw up, but I'm not nauseous throughout the day. So if I don't make myself nauseous, for example, if I don't eat, I get nauseous, and if I eat something that doesn't agree with me, I get nauseous. That's how my second trimester is rolling around, but I'll make a whole separate video about my second trimester once I'm through with it. Oh yeah, and I have a really sensitive nose, but I guess that sort of came hand in hand with nausea. So I got like a bloodhound nose. I could smell my husband making food while I was in the shower. Even if it wasn't nothing crazy, he was like boiling porridge, and porridge just has this like sweet smell to it. and I could smell it in the shower. So, and then there were specific smells that literally made me throw up, which were like anything synthetic, like either it was perfume or any sort of laundry detergent. Stuff that has synthetic smell made me really sick. The smell of of cooked eggs made me throw up. So I am vegan, but my husband isn't vegan. So he used to like make omelets, and then at some point he stopped doing that because it was making me really sick. I probably glossed over a few things because the first trimester is like the period of 3 months, so there like a lot of things happen, but most of the time I was just extremely sick and throwing up. So yeah, that's what happened with me. But I keep reminding myself that all of this is worth it, and I know it's worth it. It's all temporary, even though it's not temporary in the sense that, hey, you're gonna be sick for one day. Like, I was sick for such a long time, and I'll see what the rest of the pregnancy brings. But like right now, I'm so glad I feel a little bit normal and that I can function and like make videos. Yeah, I'm grateful even for that bit. Yeah, I don't know what else I can add. I hope I didn't miss anything out. If you have any questions about pregnancy or my first trimester or anything like that, please leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to answer them if you have any. But also, like I said at the start of the video, leave your pregnancy stories or your first trimester stories in the comments, because I'd love to hear them. I love to hear that I wasn't the only one just throwing up. Thanks for watching this video. I'm still surprised you're here if you're still watching this. If you did like this video, please leave me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon in one of my next videos. Bye guys.